Hi, my name is Thurman Greco, and I'm with the Good Neighbor Food Pantry, where the elite meet. And we have a program here called Take This Bread. And we have a theme going for this year, which is 2012, and that theme is frugal living. And one of the things that I'm going to introduce to you this evening has to do with frugal living. It has to do with offering reflexology to someone. And the reason I'm using this, and the reason I think it's very important for frugal living, is the fact that reflexology is a wonderful thing that you can offer to someone. It helps bring balance to a person's body. We call that homeostasis. And it's not rocket science. It's easy to learn. It's easy to practice. It's fun to do. It's fun to receive. It's a really, really nice thing to be able to do. And so I couldn't offer a series on frugal living without offering at least one or two reflexology classes. So tonight we have a model, and we're going to talk about reflexology. And hopefully at the end of this program, you will give some serious thought to going to the library and checking out a book, or maybe going to the bookcase in where you live and finding an old dusty reflexology book that you bought a long time ago, and getting it out and offering reflexology to someone you know. Reflexology is a very, very easy thing to do. It takes probably years to become a master reflexologist, but you can begin to help someone immediately. As soon as you begin to offer reflexology to someone, you are going to begin to offer them the gift of balance, and we call that homeostasis. Homeostasis is where the organs of the body work together to balance and ground a person. And in order to offer balance, you have to reflex the feet. And of course, we reflex the feet because there are all these nerve endings in the bottom of the feet that reflect to different parts of the body. So that there's an actual map which goes with this, and this is why you need to go and get that book out of the library so you can get the map, and so you'll have it to read. Or if you want to send me $5, I'll send you a copy of some of the maps that I have made that I'm going to be using in my upcoming book on reflexology for the spirit. I practice a form of reflexology called reflexology for the spirit, which is it's the same reflexology that everybody teaches in all the books, except there's an added layer, and that added layer is the spiritual effect, because, you know, we have a physical body, which we all know and see in ourselves and in another person, but then we have the energetic body and the spiritual body, and in reality, the energetic body and the spiritual body is actually bigger and more important than the physical body. But because you can't necessarily see it, we sometimes have a tendency to ignore it for a while. But then there comes a time when our health is out of sorts, and when it's time to think about getting back to the basics and trying to be a healthy person. And one of the things that happens with reflexology is that if you can offer reflexology to yourself or to someone else on a regular basis, you can't help but bring about homeostasis. And that does answer the first question, is do you have to have somebody to offer reflexology to you? My answer to that is preferably yes. But it's not necessary. I offer reflexology to myself. Many of my practitioners offer reflexology to themselves. But it's always nice if you can find a friend or a neighbor, and if you can, the two of you together, offer reflexology back and forth to one another. Because then you get to know one another's feet, you spend some time together. Set aside about an hour for offering reflexology to someone. So if you get a friend, rather than spending money to go to the movies or whatever, go home, ask your friend to hang their feet off the end of the sofa, and you get a stool and sit at the end of the sofa and offer reflexology to their feet. You can offer reflexology for about an hour, and then you guys trade places. So that means you're going to spend a half an hour on each foot. And as you spend a half an hour on each foot, you're going to offer warm-ups and warm-downs on each foot, and then you're going to reflex the foot. And I'm going to show you exactly how we're going to do it. The first thing you want to do is you want to lubricate the foot. And I'm using an oil here. You can use a lotion. You can use a cream. You can even, if you want to, there are some reflexologists who say that you can use baby powder, foot powder, and you really can. You can actually do the feet. You can reflex the feet without anything at all if you want to, as far as that goes. But I like to use oils, and I like to use creams, and I like to use lotions. And one of the reasons that I like to do that is because our feet are generally ignored much of the time. And while we may put lotion on our bodies, we don't always get that lotion onto the bottom of the feet. And while we may put oil on our bodies, we don't always get it to the bottom of the feet. And also, our feet take us, they take us places. They take us through life. They get us through life. And they deserve a positive touch once in a while. And as we get older, our feet get drier and drier. So a lotion and a cream won't hurt at all. Now, the first thing you're going to do when you offer reflexology to somebody, like I said, have them get on the sofa, face up, and hang their feet over the edge of the sofa. Or if you have a lazy boy chair in your home, they can get in the lazy boy, put the recliner back, and their feet will be up. And you can sit at their feet with a small stool. I kind of like the sofa because the feet are going to be a little bit higher that way, and that way you can just sit there with a chair. You don't have to go hunting for a stool. Another thing you can use is you can use a zero gravity a chair. They sell those. One brand is Lafuma. And although there are many brands now, and those are sold in the garden centers in the summertime because people use those to go out on their decks and in their yards. Anything where the feet are propped up is really good. And I ask you, if you're going to be on the sofa, or if you have a massage table at home or whatever, that you prop some pillows under the knees, and you put some pillows under the head. And I also recommend that you cover the body with a sheet. Even though the person is clothed, it's very nice to have a light covering on, because as we receive foot reflexology, we have a tendency to relax and get quiet and get cool. That's one of the things that happens with reflexology. Although, I will say this, that many times when people go into a healing state with reflexology, the area around the person's body will become very, very warm. It's really common for me when I'm offering reflexology to someone to have them, all of a sudden, I will feel like I'm having a hot flash or something, and in reality, I'm not. The person is actually getting very, very warm, and that's extremely common for coming into a healing state. Now, you're going to have these the person's feet hanging off of the end of the sofa, and you're going to take the socks off one foot, and you're going to oil it or cream it or lotion it up. Make sure you have oil and cream and lotion all over the foot. And the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to do a warm-up. And I like to begin with an ankle. Our ankles are very, very important because they literally move us from place to place. So they are pivotal. They are very, very important in our present day life, in our future life. They bring us into our future. And so I like to work that ankle a little bit every time I come to work on a person's foot. And then, of course, after I have worked the ankles back and forth a few times, then I will go to the toes, and I will rotate the toes 4 or 5 times in each direction. And you don't have to go awfully fast with reflexology. You can actually go quite slowly. You know, with reflexology and massage and other kinds of body work, slow and steady wins the race. You don't have to be really fast at what you're doing, because the slower you go, the easier it is for that person to relax, slip into an altered state, and come into healing more quickly. So what we're doing is we're rotating these toes back and forth 4 or 5 times. And in reality, we are not only rotating the toes, but we are actually working the neck, because a person's body is reflected in the foot. When you check out your book at the library, you're going to see what we call maps of the feet. And you're going to see that in foot reflexology, this part of the foot, which is the medial side of the foot, this is where the spinal cord and the vertebrae, the backbone are. And then, of course, the neck goes all along here. And this is the head. This is the head. And then, of course, the very ends of the toes are where the brain is. So we always want to work the ends of the toes. Everybody's brain needs to be worked. And so we're going to work the ends of the toes. And we start at the top of the foot, which is the head, and then we go down. And then, after you've worked the brain area, we are going to do, this is the sinuses. And we're going to do these sinuses. We're going to inch our way up these sinuses, and this is going to stimulate the sinuses. And if you have a sinus problems, which I do, and which many people do, you need to do this probably twice a week, maybe 3 times a week. Get those sinuses working, clear out those sinuses, and do it on a regular basis. It's not always necessary to take medication for sinus infections, but if you are going to use reflexology to help your sinuses, you've got to be very consistent about doing it. You have to work the sinuses on your feet every week, at least a couple of times. And it doesn't take an awful lot, but you do have to do it. And then, of course, after you have worked the sinuses, you're going to want to go back and down and do the necks of the toes, because that's also where your neck is. And, of course, we all know that we carry more stress in our necks than we do anywhere else in the body. And, of course, the second most stressed place in the body is the hands. And so now we have just done the sinuses, we've done the brain, and now we've done the neck. Now we're going to walk across this ridge here. And this is the eyes and the ears, this ridge right here. And we call this, as a map, this is called the neckline. And we go back and forth here on the eyes and the ears. This is a very important part of the foot, because there are a lot of things that people can do if they have ear problems. There are a lot of things with reflexology that you can do that will help your eye and ear problems. Eyes and ears are very spiritual. They take us back to beginnings of time. You know, when our outlook on life, when we begin to learn new things and our life is going to become different, our vision becomes different. Every time I've gone through strong spiritual growth, my vision has changed. And you know, sometimes people will begin to lose their vision, as I have done. And that's part of the spiritual growth. As your body, as you begin to go inward in your journey through life, your eyes change. And the same thing is true of your ears. Our ears hear an awful lot, but they don't hear nearly as much as wolves hear, or birds hear, or deer or any, wild animals, they hear, and dogs and cats. It's believed that dogs and cats hear about 100% more than we hear. They also smell about 100% more than we smell. So, these are our sensory organs, and they're very, very spiritual in nature. Now, we have now done the eyes and ears. If a person is having, for example, some balance problems with vertigo, this is a very good thing to work. If they have eye infections, this is a good thing to work. If they have eye strain, it's a very good thing to work. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to work the respiratory system. Now, the respiratory system goes from the neck down to below the ribs, right below the ribs. And that respiratory system is right along here, along the foot, right along here. So, and this is the right foot. So this part of the foot is going to have the esophagus, it's going to have the lungs, and it's going to have the solar plexus, which is right here. And the heart is on the left foot. So we're going to work the lungs. So we're going to come up here, first of all, with the esophagus. We're going to inch our way up along the esophagus. Going to do that 2 or 3 times. That's really a nice thing to do. Nowadays, people are on a lot of medication, a lot of pharmaceuticals that cause acid reflux. And this is a nice thing to do to help with the acid reflux problem. Now, you're going to start with inching along. You're going to inch along from the outer toe over to the esophagus, and you're going to inch right along here, right along to the esophagus. And you're going to do this a couple of 3 times. And then you're going to take your other thumb and you're going to inch along. Notice how I'm using both thumbs. In reflexology, it helps to use both hands, because otherwise, as you're learning to do reflexology, your hands are going to get tired, and you don't want to wear your hands out, because if you wear your hands out, you're going to get discouraged, and you're going to say, I don't want to do reflexology because it makes my hands very tired. When in reality, you're just overworking your hands. So you want to kind of spread that out. Now, we've gone the neckline, then we did the lungs, we did the esophagus, we did both lungs. Now we're coming along here to the diaphragm line, and we're going to inch along the diaphragm line, and we're going to go along here along the diaphragm line, back and forth, and then we're going to go right here. You can see that indentation in the foot right there, okay? That's the solar plexus. The solar plexus is a very, very important part of the foot. If you don't learn anything else but this, you will have paid for the book, you will have paid for the time that you spent on this class this evening. Working the solar plexus is one of the single most important things that you can do for a person, because it brings about deep relaxation. And deep relaxation is a necessary component to healing and to balance. There are a couple of 3 things that are really needed before a person can get well, and one of those is working the solar plexus. The other one is forgiveness. You have to learn to forgive. Nobody gets well until you have learned to forgive. And I always say, if you have trouble forgiving, you're not alone. That's one of the hardest things that I have ever had to do in my life, is to forgive some jerk that did something really awful to me. And of course, I've had a lot of experience with that in the last few years. But it doesn't matter, because I have learned to just really not care. And not caring, learning to forgive yourself. We all make mistakes. It's very important to learn to forgive. So we're talking, and you can help yourself with that. There's an essential oil out there called forgiveness. You can wear that essential oil as a cologne, and you can go through a whole bottle in a month. and learn to forgive. Learn to forgive yourself and learn to forgive your neighbors. Learn to forgive that jerk. Learn to forgive that person that had no idea what you were up to. The solar plexus is very, very, very nice. Okay, so now we've done the respiratory part. Now we're going to go down here to, I'm taking my fingers along the outside of this foot and I'm going to find the cuboid notch. And that's just a little bone that's sticking out here. This is the waistline. So what we're going to do is, this is the waistline. We're going to go along the waistline. Okay, right here. This is the waistline. And we have now defined the organic part of the body. That is from the waistline to the diaphragm line. And we are going to work the waistline in diagonal. We're going to do what we call X's here. This is a very, very important part of the foot. This is where the organs are. So in the right foot, we are going to work all of the different organs. And that's primarily on the right foot, the liver and the gallbladder, a little bit of the stomach, a little bit of the pancreas, a little bit of the duodenum are all along this part of the foot. Now notice where I just put my thumb in. That's where the gallbladder is. And we are going to work this area. We're going to do rotations on this gallbladder because we all need to do that. And we're also going to work this liver. You know, working the liver is extremely important. We are, as human beings in the 21st century, we are toxic. We are breathing toxic air. We are eating toxic food. We are drinking toxic liquids. Our body works very, very hard to expel the toxicities that are in our system. And the first stop on getting rid of these toxins is the livers. So it's very important to keep our livers clean and to keep our digestive system going. And of course, the biggest organ inside the body is the liver. And that one of the greatest things we can do is work this liver. Another really good thing you can do is you can go get yourself a colon cleanse and a liver cleanse. Now, I talk about cleanses a lot in my book. I also talk about cleanses a lot to people who come to my house and get in my healing space and hop up on my table. And basically what I tell the people is that you need to have a cleanse. Everybody needs to have a colon cleanse first. You get a colon cleanse first, and then you get a liver cleanse. And they are sold at the Sunflower on different shelves. So when you go to get a colon cleanse, you find out where the colon cleanse products are. And then after you've taken a colon cleanse, which takes about a week, give it a little bit of time to rest, and then give yourself a liver cleanse. And these are very, very easy. Colon cleanses basically involve taking powders or pills, and the same thing with liver cleanses. But you don't want to do them together, and you don't want to do the liver cleanse first. Because if you do the liver cleanse first, you're going to end up dumping a lot of toxins in a colon, which is toxic to begin with, and probably overloaded. Okay, so we have worked the liver. We're going to go back to this cuboid notch, and we're going to work back and forth. And what we're doing now is we are going to work back and forth on the large and small intestines. And this is very, very important. We're just going to go all the way down here. Now, the large and small intestines on the right foot, the large and small intestines include the transverse colon, which is right here. That's the one that goes across. And the descending colon, which is right here. And the descending colon ends in the ileocecal valve and the appendix, which is right here. I'm doing a rotation here. That's the appendix. And then, of course, where the transverse colon ends, this is the I've had a senior moment. This is this corner has a name, and it's named after the liver. This is right there. This one here, and then we have the ileocecal valve. Then we go over here, and if you see this mound right here, this is where the bladder is. And you're going to work this bladder like this in rotations, and then you're going to go up. I'm sorry, I just found it now. It's the hepatic flexure. You're going to work this hepatic flexure, then you go down to the ileocecal valve, then you go over here to the bladder, and then you go up to the kidney, and you have worked your way up the ureter to the kidney. And of course, the kidneys are wonderful. They are miraculous organs. They are fascinating, and they in themselves are cleanses. But you've got to give them a little break once in a while. And one of the best things you can do for the kidneys is drink about 8 to 10 glasses of water a day, or 8 to 10 glasses of liquid a day. It's very important, because if you don't drink enough liquids, you could end up with things like bladder infections or kidney stones. Mostly women get bladder infections and men get kidney stones. And also, when you work this area here, you're also working the pelvic floor, which is extremely important. It's important to keep that pelvic floor strong, because as we get older, the pelvic floor is not as strong as it should be. And when we get sick, the first thing that goes is the pelvic muscles. And folks, that is not a nice thing. So you want to keep that pelvic floor going the whole time. Now, I did work the nervous system and the vertebrae along here. So, and now we are doing warm downs on this foot, and we're getting ready to move over onto the other foot. So this is a basic foot reflexology session on one foot. And now after we've worked that foot, we put the sock back on it. And one thing I will tell you is that if you are working somebody's foot, generally speaking, their feet are cold when you begin to work their feet, which is fine. It's whether or not they're cold when you're through working their feet. Because once you finish working their feet should be warm. So the next thing you do now is you go over to the next foot. If you work a person's foot, like I have taught you, for a half an hour and it's not warm yet, you need to tell that person that I worked on your feet for half an hour and your foot is not warm. It's time for you to do something about it. People do not have to go through life with cold feet. There are 101 things that you can have, conditions that you can have that are diagnosed with cold feet. And none of them, with the possible exception of thyroid disease, is a really terrible thing to have. But you don't have to have any of those conditions. People don't need to have cold feet. And you just need to go to the doctor and say, hey, I've got cold feet, and do something about it. And if your doctor blows you off, you obviously have the wrong doctor. Because in a lot of cases, it's a thyroid condition. And if it's a thyroid condition, the cure for that is cheap. And it is a wonderful thing. Because once you have cured your foot, cured your body of the thyroid disease, you're going to be smarter, you're going to be healthier, you're going to be much more comfortable, you're going to be so much better off with a normal functioning thyroid. So that's something that you want to do. So here we go. We're going to go over to this left foot, and we are going to do the warm-ups just like we did on the right foot. We're going to get a lotion or cream or oil. Now, I prefer oil. But one thing I do have to tell you is if you use oil on a person's foot and you do not put their socks back on and they step down on a floor, you need to make sure that they don't slip, because oil can be slick and you don't want that. So you want to make sure also when a person leaves your table at the end of the reflexology session that they're pretty well together. One of the things that I like to do after giving a person a reflexology session is spend a few minutes talking to them and making sure that they talk back to me in complete sentences. Because if they're not, I need to spend a few more minutes with them. Because a lot of times people go down into a very, very deep state. In some cases, I believe that they leave their bodies for a few minutes. And this is not a scary thing. To leave one's body is actually a very positive thing, because a lot of times we're not comfortable in our bodies. And if we're not comfortable in our bodies and we leave the body for a few minutes, we can then be comfortable. But it's important to know that you're going to come back. But don't let the person go out the door until they are together. And, I've received a lot of foot reflexology as well as Reiki in my life, and I can tell you that it does take a couple of 3 minutes to come back. So we're starting off now. We're warming the foot up. We are going to do an ankle rotation like we did. And you want to ask yourself, how is this ankle rotating compared to the other ankle? Feet are so important. Ankles are even more important. This is how we get through life. And we also want to, another warm-up you can do is you take the foot and you do what I call a metatarsal wave. And that's where one hand takes a hold of the foot under the large toe. The other hand takes a hold of the foot under the little toe, and you just kind of move them back and forth. And then we go to the toe rotations. And these toe rotations, again, are very, very important because they tell us about the tension in the neck, and they offer to de-stress the neck. There are a lot of diseases and conditions and issues that people can bring to the table with reflexology. Really good ones for reflexology include arthritis. Arthritis is very, very good with foot reflexology. Any kind of a colonic problem, constipation, diarrhea, those kinds of things are always helped with reflexology. And we believe, I was taught when I went to massage school, that 50% of the people out there have problems with digestion. And one of the things that happens is we digest our food too quickly. We don't chew our food properly. We eat food which is not proper for our bodies. And right now we're eating a lot of things which aren't even food at all, that are sold for our consumption to eat, but they're not really food when push comes to shove. So these things contribute to problems. Now we're going to go back to working the brain again. It's always important to work the brain. We all need help. I always ask my reflexologist to please don't forget to work my brain. And then we're going to work the sinuses. I always have the sinuses that need to be worked. And I'm checking my watch to make sure we don't go into the next show. And then we're going to go over here and do the other toes. And you use both your thumbs. You'll do part of the foot with one thumb and part of the foot with the other. There's no sense in just you wearing out one thumb. There are some contraindications for reflexology. Gangrene is one. Extreme osteoporosis. When a person has early stages or middle stages of osteoporosis, foot reflexology is excellent. But once it's reached the point where touching the person causes a problem with possibly creating fractures or something, it's past the time of working on their feet. Foot reflexology is very good with people with diabetes. And it's also very good for people with arthritis, as I was telling you. psoriasis, allergies, acne. There is stress. Stress causes so much. Heart disease, cancer. There was a time back in the 80s when if you had cancer, foot reflexologists and massage therapists, etc., ran in the opposite direction. Now you can go to Memorial Sloan Kettering as a cancer patient and you can receive reflexology and Reiki and massage. These things are all wonderful for cancer. These things, reflexology is wonderful for heart conditions. It's wonderful for an awful lot. So keep that in mind as you're finding partners. Now, we have worked the neck, and we are going to do the esophagus on this left foot like we did for the right foot. Now, we know that on the left foot, excuse me, we not only have the lungs, but we've got the heart on the left foot, which we did not have on the right foot. So we're going to start working back and forth. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to work the lungs and the heart on this left foot. And also, now we're going to go down to the diaphragm line. One of the things that we're also going to work is we are going to work the shoulder, which is over here under this little toe. And the shoulders on most people are a disaster because we carry the weight of the world on our shoulders, and this is a very stressful time for all of us. So working those shoulders is an important thing. Now we're going back here to the diaphragm line, and we are going to work that solar plexus again. And that is, like I said, that is probably the single most important thing you can do. There are a couple of things, way that you can work this. One is you're just working the solar plexus. The other thing is you can take both feet and work the solar plexi together. And then we're going to go down here to the cuboid notch, and we're going to go back and forth on this cuboid notch. So we are going to define the organic part of this foot, which is from the diaphragm line down to the waistline. Now, on the right foot, we worked a lot of the liver. So on the left foot, and we do this diagonally, on the left foot we are working primarily the stomach, and we are working the spleen. That's very easy. We go right here. You can see that part of the foot. It's just there it is, waiting for you. That's the splenic flexure. And you work this spleen right here. And you know, the spleen is a very, very important organ in a person's body. And it's a fascinating organ because it holds a lot of blood, and it collects a lot of toxins, and it builds blood. It's a very important part of the body. But sometimes people's spleens get injured in accidents, and they have to be removed. And so we do occasionally find a person whose spleen has been removed. And I don't think they do it anymore, but back in even as late as the 80s, people were taking the spleens out, when doctors were taking the spleens out when people had cancer. So you can live without it, but it's an important part of your body. Then we go over here to this part of the foot, and this is where the pancreas and the duodenum is on this side. And that's very, very important. If you've got a diabetes, you really want to work that area. And it's going to be a little bit sensitive. Sometimes when you're working along, you'll work along and all of a sudden a person will say, ooh, I feel that. It's very common for you to work something, for example, the shoulder, and a person will feel that they'll feel it in the shoulder. Or you'll work the neck and the person will feel it in the neck. Or you'll work the spleen and they'll feel it. That's a very, very common thing. And what you do is kind of keep after it a little bit and try to work that out. So then we go back here to the waistline, and we are back to this cuboid notch, and we are now doing thumb walks back and forth across the foot all the way down to the bottom of the foot. Now, we are working the large and small intestines. Now, over here, we have the transverse colon, and we have the ascending colon, and where they meet is the splenic flexure, and we're going to work that. Then we come down here to another flexure, and then we go down to the rectum and work here, and then we go over to the bladder and we work the bladder, and then we go up the ureter to the kidney, and then we work the kidneys again. So you see that there are some differences between one foot and the other foot. So what you do is you just get the maps and you just learn, you just follow the maps. You can be working on a person and you can have their maps right there. There's, nothing says, nobody says that you have to know these maps perfectly before you begin to work on a person's feet, because you don't. And also, there are all kinds of maps out there. Everybody does their maps differently. And whether you like a person's map, person A over person B, whether you like this map better than that map, is truly, I believe, a function of your eyesight. It all depends upon what map works better with your eyes. And so you need to try to find the map that works best for you. And you can also get complimentary copies off the net of foot reflexology charts. Now, after you've done this, you're going to do the vertebrae, and you're going to go back and forth with the vertebrae. And this is a very, very important thing to do, because this is not only the backbone, but this is also the nervous system. And if you have a problem, you want to work that nervous system fairly early in the game, like maybe first or second, after you've done the toes and you've done the ears or whatever. You'll do this nervous system, because the nervous system is going to communicate to the body. The nervous system is a communication hub for the human body. So if you know that there is something wrong, say you know that the person has a digestive system problem, then you're going to work the nervous system and the digestive system at the same time. Or say you have something wrong with the eyes and the ears, you're going to work the nervous system, and then you're going to go over and work the eyes and the ears right afterwards. And that's a fairly common thing, because a lot of times if we do have problems with the eyes or ears, that's a spiritual issue. And so working with the nervous system really, really helps. And of course, there are some things that reflexology is definitely not going to help. If you are deaf, working the ears is not going to bring your hearing back. But if you have ear inflammation, if you have tinnitus, if you have balance problems, if you have vertigo problems, then reflexology can definitely help. If you have problems of waxing in the ears, too much wax, then reflexology can definitely help. So there are some things that you can do and some things that you cannot do, but you need to read about them more to find out. And in the meantime, it doesn't help to try to do some more. One of the things that you can do is you can work the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is the sewer system of the body, and it runs parallel to the circulatory system. But with the circulatory system, we have a pump, which is the heart. With the lymphatic system, we do not have a pump, so the only ways that you can work your lymphatic system is through reflexology or exercise. So if you will offer some stimulation to the lymphatic system as you are working the feet, then you will definitely help clean the body out. And the lymphatic system is along the outside part of the foot, and I just pinch along there along the outside part of the body of the foot. And then also I will start right at the base of the toes and go down. And you go down between the toes. It's the space between the toes. And that really helps. The lymphatic system really helps. And then, of course, all along here is the lymphatic system as well, a different part of the lymphatic system. And back here, these are the hips. And, of course, all along here is the kidneys. And, of course, if you have problems with the sciatica, you want to go along here, along the sciatic nerve. So there are a lot of different things that you can do. There are, reflexology offers some really wonderful things. It offers you an opportunity to rest and relax. It offers you an opportunity to create balance. And it offers you, more importantly, an opportunity to feel like that you might be in control of your health. A lot of people come to me, and when they get on the table, they are so downtrodden by their health state that they think there is no hope, and how in the world are things going to get better? And after you have worked with reflexology for a while and you begin to feel better, then you begin to see opportunities that you did not see before. And I think that's extremely important. Because once you begin to see opportunities that you didn't see before, you're going to respond and you're going to feel good. Because even, at the beginning, you may not even feel good for 4 or 5 sessions, but after 5 or 6 sessions, you may begin to feel good for like 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And then before you know it, you're feeling good for maybe an hour or 2 hours. And once you receive a foot reflexology session, try to relax the rest of the day. Don't go back out into the world and start slugging out the way you were doing before. Give yourself a chance, give your body a chance to enjoy a little bit of homeostasis before you get back out there in the slugging match. And hopefully you will offer reflexology to someone and receive reflexology as well. We will be offering some other classes throughout the year. We'll be offering some Reiki sessions and some more reflexology sessions. We'll be offering some hand reflexology sessions. And we'll be offering some other intermediate and advanced sessions. And thank you very much. We enjoyed having you. And I hope you enjoy using the reflexology in the future.